Hey, Daddy, this is the man of the champions, Bill Fonzie Alfonso, giving a shout out to
Something Else.
something else, Daddy.
This is Nicole Matata, Great Warrior Wolf, and you are listening to Something Else.
I'm Tony Cini, and you're listening to Something Else.
Hey everybody, it's Rich Palladino, the voice of New England, and you are listening to Something Else with Arya.
And welcome to episode number 116 of Something Else. Feast your hair holes on this week's episode as we take a look at Mid-South Wrestling and World Class Championship Wrestling from August 20th, 1983. My name is Arya, and joining me, as always, is the Andre the Giant to my Kamala. It's Trae. Trae, how you doing today?
You know, I'm not really as a person known for my sunny disposition, and some days are harder to get through with others. But I just keep telling myself that I have the good fortune to live in a world where Doki is the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, Zack Sabre Jr. has won the G1, and there's a huge-ass AEW Stadium show 4 hours from my house in 11 months to look forward to. So, trying to look on the bright side.
I want to find out, ZSJ won the G1 despite you saying that he would not win the G1.
Yeah, I said at the time I would be very happy to be proven wrong. I was convinced that after they gave it to Kenny Omega and he ended up leaving anyway, I was just like, they're just never gonna give it to a foreigner again. But I guess Zach has convinced them that he's there for the long haul, that he wants to be in New Japan, and he's the guy, and he fucking deserves it.
I mean, it's also Omega left like fucking 6 years ago. Like, you know, plus it was like at least 2 management teams ago. Like, I can't imagine the people in charge of New Japan right now are super upset because 6 years ago Kenny Omega left.
Yeah, but it's the same booker, and he remembers that shit. So,
Oh yes, but you know, it's like
I think so. I think he remembers stuff. I don't know. All this House of Torture shit, his brain just might be rotted out.
I was gonna say, have we actually tested Jado and Gato to see what they remember and what they don't remember?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what Jado remembers either. So Zach has like he has all these ridiculous names for his various submission holds. The best one being orienteering with Napalm Death. He won the G1. Would you like to guess the name of the hold?
I saw it earlier, but I forget it. So what was it?
Clarky Cat G1 winner Tekker's version.
That sounds like a tremendous hold.
It was some good old ZSJ torture porn. I've never I don't think it's I don't know. I was thinking about like what really great iconic finishes were submissions. And I thought the Benoit over Triple H at WrestleMania 20, Bryan Danielson over Batista at WrestleMania 30. Here we go, talking about every 10 WrestleManias again.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's what we do.
Yeah. But like those were both tap outs, which I feel like the tap out is maybe a little more satisfying dramatically because you have the visual. I just the way Zack Sabre Jr. like wraps people up in holds and shit, they got no arms left and they have to verbally submit. And so I'm watching this match and I'm so into it, and like I don't think I've ever been so excited for a verbal tap out. Like I had convinced myself you know, I didn't want to get my hopes up, but I'm like, you know what? If they're ever going to do it, this is when they're going to do it. And just, they had this incredible match and just incredible near falls. And Zach's doing all these crazy, because, you know, he gets the thing where he gets you in a hold and he switches every 6 seconds, and it's just awesome. And then it's just, you're watching and you think he's got him, and then he had him, and it was awesome, and made me appreciate just it's the things like that, those really, especially those really great New Japan main events. This is why I've been a New Japan loyalist for many years. That just the drama, the emotional weight to those big moments. It's why we watch this shit.
You realize it's been, well over 25 years, like almost 30 years, since the tap out replaced the verbal submission in wrestling. Because, I mean, ECW was doing it with Taz, but it was only with Taz. It wasn't with the rest of the roster. It really wasn't until Shamrock went to WWE in 97 that it became the official way to submit.
Yeah, you're right.
Speaking of things I wanted to submit to,
is this about George Weingroff's penis?
Of course, I always want to submit to George Weingroff's penis, but I don't know if I was just tired. I don't know if just I was in the mood. I was not feeling this week's shows at all. This week's Mid-South and World Class.
I certainly understand why. I thought the main event on World Class was excellent.
It definitely was, and I guess it helps when that was the last thing I saw, because I watched them in the order that we reviewed them.
Yeah.
But yeah, this Mid-South show, like, good Lord, this is one of those times they did the main event early, and then they're like, oh, well, the rest of the show is going to be standby matches. And it's like, oh, please don't fucking tell me we're just going to get 30 fucking minutes of standby matches. And we got 30 fucking minutes of standby matches.
It was honestly both of these shows, but it was especially Mid-South. Felt like they only taped shit for like half a show and then just had to fill some airtime.
We'll get to the moment where I screamed, but actually it was during the World Class show. And
I can't wait to learn what moment made you scream.
It's possible you can actually figure it out, but let's start here with the Irish McNeil Boys Club in Shreveport, Louisiana. This is Mid-South Wrestling, August 20th, 1983. Let's go to Boyd Pierce and this week's co-host, the returning Jim Ross. Yes, that Jim Ross, not the mayor of Arlington, Texas, Jim Ross either.
The outstanding television personality, Jim Ross.
I'm your host, Boyd Pierce, and we have a lot of exciting action. We invite you to stay with us. It'll be headlined by Battle of the Hacksaws, as Hacksaw Jim Duggan takes on Hacksaw Butch Reed, and with the stipulation that if Hacksaw Duggan wins the match, he immediately gets General Skandor Akbar in the ring for 5 minutes alone, right here on television. Also, we have a lot of other action coming up. The man to tell us about it this week, the outstanding television personality, former Mid-South Wrestling referee, also former great referee for college football and basketball games. It's Jim Ross. Jim, we would like for you to bring your wrestling knowledge to us here on Mid-South. We'll be looking forward to it. Right now, I believe that Grizzly Smith has something for us to see. Fill us in on the details, if you will, please.
Well, Boyd, of course, it's always a great pleasure to be back on the Mid-South Wrestling area, and everywhere I go, wrestling fans talk about Mid-South Wrestling, and sports fans in general about the excitement here on Mid-South Wrestling. And one of the reasons that Mid-South Wrestling is the #1 television sports program in the country is because the matchmaker Grizzly Smith always brings the finest matches and the greatest competition right here to television so you fans can see the top main events. And we've got a top main event today. You mentioned the Battle of the Hacksaws. But we had some comments recorded earlier by General Skandor Akbar. He had Bruce Reed with him, and these comments pertain directly to Jim Duggan, and they pertain to today's card. Let's hear those comments now.
Yes, today's your day, Duggan. Just as I promised, hippie. If you can beat Butch Reed, you can get 5 minutes alone with the General anytime. But you know, Duggan, I don't make bad investments. Just look at this Herculean physique. A man that's a North American champion, which means he's #1 in all of Mid-South. And if you say my confidence reflects because I'm not even changing into any wrestling trunks. That's right. And if you're man enough, you can come in and tear it off. Now, if you do, by any freak of nature, we'll let Mid-South take a commercial break, and you can get 5 minutes head-to-head. No referee in the ring. But that's not going to happen, Duggan.
Hey, I tell you what, Skandor Akbar, you want it, you got it. Now, I'm going to tell you what, you are a businessman, and you know till you want a high-price job done, you got to pay for the high-price equipment. And Jim Duggan, I'm the equipment, and I'm going to let my brick house body fall on you.
Now you heard General Skandor Akbar and Hacksaw Butch Reed regarding the match that'll be coming up on this week's program. We also want to tell you that we find out later that the missing link does have a name. We'll also see the debut in Mid-South of a 300-pound outdoorsman from the Northwest Minnesota in Crusher Darso. So we'll be looking forward to those things. Jim Ross, I forgot to tell you, is actually connected to the promotion in Mid-South Wrestling in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and he'll be telling you with a great authority. Right now, the first match is in the ring. Let's go for the introduction.
All right, so the outstanding television personality, Jim Ross, is here. We're told he is a former Mid-South referee, as well as a referee for college football and basketball. Sadly, Boyd didn't mention that he was part of ESPN Rodeo, like he did the last time JR was here. And yes, we only have one Jim Ross on this show, unlike Collision yesterday, which had multiple Jim Rosses. And I was a little thrown off by the number of Jim Rosses on that show.
So it happened once here, and then it happened about a dozen times during the match, to the point that I had to look up if Butch Reed's real name was Bruce, and it is Bruce Franklin Reed.
And JR could not stop calling him Bruce. And the funny thing is, and I believe this was before you started the show, but when Butch Reed debuted, they promoted for 2 weeks that Bruce Reed was on his way, and then Bruce Reed never showed up, but Butch Reed did. But apparently JR did not get that memo.
He's been busy.
Yes. So today it's Jim Duggan versus Bruce or Butch Reed, with Duggan getting 5 minutes with Akbar if he wins. So I guess those negotiations with Grizzly Smith worked out. The ones that I was hoping were going to be on this show this week, but they weren't. It was just the match.
Not putting those negotiations on TV is the worst thing Grizzly Smith ever did.
Indeed. And actually, that's not that wasn't what I listed as the worst thing Grizzly Smith ever did award winner of the week. But by the way, Akbar says he doesn't make bad investments. Now, of course, this was well before you joined the show, but about a year ago, they brought in the Mongolian Stomper, and Akbar is like, this is the most amount of money I've ever paid for a wrestler to manage the Mongolian Stomper, and then Stomper was only here for like 3 weeks. I'm like, so this is real. You spent a lot of money on somebody who's here less than a month.
Yeah, I don't understand Akbar's business model.
He's got a lot of oil money, I guess.
So he's managing in 2 territories. He's on both of these shows, but then like only like 1 out of every 3 matches that one of his guys is in is he at ringside. Like, what is he doing?
He's negotiating with OPEC or something. I don't know. I'm just sad that Totally Yatsu is apparently gone.
What a tragedy.
Yes. He says he's not even going to wear his trunks to the ring because he's so confident in Butch Reed. And apparently we're going to find out the missing link's name, which is apparently not the missing link. And if that's not enough, we're going to have the debut of Crusher Darso. And oh man, that is That is a moment that I hope doesn't get replicated in the future.
It was a disconcerting moment.
And we have not discussed Crusher Darso, so I'm curious if you and I have the same disconcerting moment about that match.
I wonder. I bet it is.
The
match only went 49 seconds. It can't be too many.
I was going to say there's not a whole lot to disagree or to have disconcerting about that match, but man, oh man. But before we get to Crusher Darso, we got to go to Boris Zirkov for his first of two appearances on today's show. Boris Zirkov and Rip Rogers versus Dr. Death Steve Williams and Magnum TA. This has probably happened far more than once, but I laughed because they announced that Boris was in the red corner. JR is doing commentary for a Dr. Death match, shockingly. He plugs the Oklahoma Outlaws of the USFL, which is what leads to how I spend my next hour of my life, because every time I got bored, I decided to look up some USFL football shit. But JR said that he has season tickets for their expansion season next season, and he hopes Dr. Death will be on the team. I looked up and saw that Oklahoma finished 6-12 and then moved to Arizona for 1985. And Dr. Death was not on the team. And I also would like to point out that a few months ago, they told us that Steve was signed to the team. And so I guess that didn't work out because they're hoping he's going to be on the Oklahoma team now. I did note that Oklahoma has 3 Williamses on their team, and none of them were Steve. And in
Sorry,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, in non-1983 football news, TA pinned Rip after a belly-to-belly suplex.
This is one of those matches that makes like no sense in your brain because all these guys are associated with different territories. So like you never really think of them together. This was the only time and place that this match could have happened. And I feel like there's a lot of that in this period of Mid-South.
Yeah. It's like all those random Marty Lundy matches. It's like you could have bet me $1,000 that Arn Anderson never wrestled half these people, but Arn Anderson did. And he did a lot of jobs to people you never knew he even wrestled.
So I've been watching Noah's N1 victory, and one of the participants is Tavion Heights from NXT, who is he was an Olympic wrestling champion in the 2020 Olympics that were held in 2021.
Yep. And
he is using a belly-to-belly suplex as a finish that looks incredible. And just every time I see him hit it, I'm like, fucking best use of a belly-to-belly suplex as a finisher since Magnum TA. See, I tied that back into what we were talking about.
I was going to say, was it better or worse than Magnum TA's belly-to-belly?
It's better. It's fucking crazy. Like, this is big, strong fucker. Just hurts you up, turns in the air with you, drops you. It looks like it looks snappier.
Okay. Who had the better belly to belly, Magnum or Harley?
I don't know that Harley's belly to belly ever made too much of an impression on me.
Okay. See, I always loved it. But, oh well. Again, if everyone had the same opinion about everything, talking about anything would be boring.
Absolutely. Kurt Angle's overhead belly to belly was fantastic.
Yes, like when he dropped Shane McMahon on his head 15 or 16 times.
That's the most famous one, yes.
Poor Shane. You don't say that often enough, but poor Shane.
That guy. Oh, the things you do to try to get your father to love you.
I'd like to think that was his thought process. It's like, Dad's going to give the company to Stephanie. I bet if Kurt throws me through the glass, then Daddy will love me and give me the company.
I think that was the thought process behind most of the shit he did.
Hey, I bet if I jump from 50 feet in the air on the Big Show, Dad will love me. Which, I mean, if you're going to jump from 50 feet in the air, Big Show's a pretty good person to fall on. Not sure if
I
Big
bet
Show
if,
agrees, but
Yeah. Bet if Steve Blackman hits me with a cane and I fall off the SummerSlam set, my dad will finally respect me as a man.
oh my God, like that is still like the greatest and worst fall ever was Shane just like stepping backwards on like this like I don't know. It's hard to explain. Everyone has seen this. Even if you've never seen it, you've seen it. Like Shane just
Yeah.
falling straight back. Like, holy shit. And
Fucking crazy.
it's hilarious. So, like, he has fallen from so much shit that, and, everyone's like, oh, Mick Foley did too much shit to his body. It's like, goddamn, Shane killed himself for his dad's love over and over and over again. And not saying his dad didn't love him, but there's a reason Stephanie got the company. Well, I guess Stephanie didn't get the company either, but Stephanie was going to get the company.
What if the reason Shane has had talks with AEW is because he wants to come in and either fight with or team with Darby Allin? Maybe the only person who has fallen off as much crazy shit as he has.
Oh my God. Like that, if Shane McMahon wrestled Darby Allin, like it's must-see TV just to see like the torture porn that they create.
Yeah, I don't after Shane blew both of his quads out trying to run one high spot at WrestleMania last year, I think maybe he shouldn't wrestle anymore.
And it's bad when Snoop Dogg has to cover for you.
Snoop Dogg saved the show.
Yes. Hey, he saved the Olympics too.
Absolutely. Saved a lot of things, if we're being honest.
More than likely. So, North American champion Butch Reed with General Skandor Akbar for some reason, because as we've noted, Akbar is not Bruce Reed's manager. Now I'm calling him Bruce Reed. Akbar is not Butch Reed's manager either. And for some reason, Akbar is just allowed to make matches for Butch Reed now. And they're wrestling. He's wrestling Jim Duggan. Duggan attacks before the bell. It's during the introductions. Duggan attacks Butch Reed from behind. Referee Ricky Ferreira should not have rung the bell. Because he should have pulled Duggan to the side, because that was a sneak attack. The babyface sneak attacked the heel before the match began.
Okay,
but
before you recap the match, I would like to read what I wrote before the match started.
Of course.
Yeah. I would have Duggan win, but then all of Akbar's guys attack him and he doesn't get his 5 minutes with Akbar. Then you go all around the circuit with Duggan versus Akbar in a cage.
Well, I can guarantee you at least half of that happened.
We're halfway there.
Yes. JR, as you mentioned earlier, he keeps calling him Bruce Reed, but does at one point say they call him Hacksaw Butch Reed. Are they the same they that call him Vader, or the same they that showed up on 10-10-10? And I don't know. This is one of those times you're just bored as hell. You latch onto something for entertainment. They said this a couple times, that if Duggan wins, they will immediately go to commercial and come back for the 5-minute match without a referee. And of course, that leads to the obvious question: if you don't have a referee, how will you enforce the rules? I thought this was a fine clubbering match. It was just two big motherfuckers slapping meat. And Duggan at one point used a jumping double chop for a 2 count. But we're going to play the finish here. So Duggan has covered Bruce Reed. Bruce Reed is kicked out. Reed has landed on referee Ricky Ferreira, who promptly gets up because, Ricky Ferreira can't do anything right. And let's go to that right now.
By matches, because this is for one fall with television time remaining. Grizzly Smith giving them plenty of time to settle the arguments in the Battle of the Hacksaws.
The referee took a stiff shot right there by Bruce Reed. Now on the concrete he goes. So we've got both men in the ring with no referee. Jim Duggan with a real high backdrop to Reed, and Reed's trying to get to his feet. Reed's a fighter. Reed's a fighter, but look at the football stance. There's that spear, and he got it firmly planted on the skull of Bruce Reed. He's been down. Reed's down for more than 3. Reed's been down for 5 or 6, but there's no referee, and Akbar's blowing a whistle. General Skandor Akbar is coming to the ring, blowing a whistle, and Jim Duggan is unloading on him now. Duggan is unloading on.
And look what answered the whistle, Jim.
Here comes Kamala. Here comes Kamala and the referee. Ricky Ferreira comes to the ring. Ricky Ferreira, and there goes the big splash. The big splash, and they're holding Duggan. They're holding Duggan. Reed and Akbar are holding Duggan, 385 pounds, coming down on Duggan, and now they're turning him over. They're turning Duggan over, 385 pounds to the second rope. They're trying to enter Jim Duggan, and they're doing the job right here. Jim Duggan, all 3 men working on Jim Duggan, but Duggan has won the match by disqualification. Duggan has won the match by disqualification. In comes Art Cruz. In comes George Weingroff. And out they go. Out they go as quickly as they came in. The referee's calling for the bell. We have a disqualification. The winner of the match is Hacksaw Jim Duggan. The winner of the match is Duggan, Kamala, and Bruce Reed, and General Skandor Akbar triple teaming Duggan. But Duggan has won the match. Duggan has won the match. But will he be able to continue? Will Jim Duggan be able to continue?
Well, he's got General Skandor Akbar for 5 minutes immediately after this break. If he's able, we'll return right after this important message.
So I think it's safe to assume that the least valuable player on this week's episode of Mid-South was not referee Ricky Ferreira, who just sucks at his job. It's Oral Link, the producer, who did not immediately go to commercial once Butch Reed was disqualified. As a matter of fact, he just waited for an additional minute or so until, everyone went their separate ways before finally going to break. But
Oral Link.
Yes, that is the man's name.
Huh. That's there's a very funny Twitter account that I follow called Actual Names that finds like ridiculous real people's names from like census records and marriage records and all this stuff. And I feel like Oral Link belongs on that list.
I'll say it's one to submit to them, because Oral Roberts was a real person, and then he became a college.
You think Oral Link submitted to George Weingroff's penis?
Oh, I can't. I think everybody submitted to George Weingroff's penis. That man had such an epic penis.
If Vince McMahon had seen George Weingroff's penis, he would have gotten the Hulk Hogan push.
Hulk Hogan would have jobbed him in 2 minutes on the first WrestleMania.
Instead of Hulkamania running wild, we'd all be Weingroffing.
We'd be saluting the epic penis.
Indeed.
And so Ricky Ferreira had a 280-pound wrestler fall on him, and he immediately stood right back up. So Reed and Duggan had to run another spot to bump him again because he's a dumbass. Akbar gets on his apron, blows his whistle, so Kamala comes running out, and he attacks with disqualification. And then we get a post-match angle where Akbar and Reed are holding Duggan's extremities so Kamala could splash him a couple times, including from the middle rope. I'd like to point out that after the match is over, it's not a disqualification to come off the top rope anymore, Kamala. The match is over.
Is it not? Oh, well, yeah. Fair.
Unless you're Mil Mascaras, then you can come off the top rope and we'll do some sort of bullshit excuse as to why, you came off the top rope.
I don't know. At one point in the show, I got confused thinking that somebody got disqualified for throwing somebody over the top rope after the match. So I guess if in that world, the fucked up world that I imagine, you could get disqualified in a match that you weren't in if you dared to jump off the top rope.
Or maybe if Kamala would have jumped off the top rope, they would have reversed the decision and Reed would have won.
There you go. That's Skandor Akbar playing 5D chess.
There you go. So now you might wonder, hey, Duggan won the match. Doesn't he now get a 5-minute match with General Skandor Akbar? And you're thinking too far ahead, because let's go now after commercial to Reese Bowden and General Skandor Akbar, who is wearing all of his clothes at this point.
As you could see before the commercial break.
Where you at, Duggan? Where you at, Duggan? I'm ready for you now. Come on, Duggan.
Hacksaw Duggan did indeed win his
match. I'm better than you are, Duggan. I'm king of the Mid-South. Yes, you souped-up hippie. I was a North American champion, and I'm ready. Where you at, Duggan? I can tell you can see I'm just rolling. I'm ready to wrestle. Where's everybody at? Where's everybody at? Where's everybody at?
Well, as I said, you could see that Hacksaw Duggan did win the match.
Yes, you get out of the Mid-South.
It was stipulated that he was to meet Skandor Akbar here in the ring without a referee. But you could also see that Hacksaw Duggan was rather severely injured.
Always one step ahead of Mid-South and you clammy hippie. That'll teach you a lesson to stick your big bulbous nose in my business, Duggan. That's a lesson for you to learn, and you'll live it the rest of your life.
Well, I've just received word that Hacksaw Duggan is unable to wrestle. He had his opportunity to meet Skandor Akbar, but he was unable to come out to the ring. So, that one is scratched, maybe another time.
Well, as you can see, after the commercial break, Akbar was in the ring with Reeser. He calls Duggan a souped-up hippie, which he calls Duggan a hippie, as you can see, about 15 times during this show so far today. And as you can...
I mean, he did have long hair and a known fondness for marijuana.
Very true. Although, did he have the known fondness for marijuana in 1983?
I think so. Well, I think he had it. I don't know. It wasn't as known as it would be in 87, but...
As you can see, Akbar was taking his clothes off during his promo. And as you can see, Jim Duggan is not here because, as you can see, Kamala injured Jim Duggan, as you can see. A referee came in, as you can see, and said that Jim Duggan was unable to wrestle. So we're jumping straight to a standby match, as you can see. And yes, I did just try to beat Reeser's record for the number of times you can say, as you can see, in 90 seconds.
What's the record?
I don't know, but Reeser did say it a lot during that 90-second period, as you can see.
As I can see.
So Akbar did not put his shirt back on, and I wrote he stayed at ringside for the next match, but I actually don't think he did. But it
he
was
did not.
Yeah. So it was Ted DiBiase and King Kong Bundy without shirtless General Skandor Akbar versus Tim Horner and Mr. Wrestling 2. I gotta say, if they would have actually promoted this match and instead of just it being a random, standby match, maybe I wouldn't have been as bored as I fucking was at this point, because I'm looking at the time, looking at how much time is left on the show, and I'm like, are we just gonna get this long ass show of standby matches? And sure enough, we're gonna get a long ass show of standby matches.
Yeah, they only went a little over 3 minutes, and like, you could have done this for like 7-8 minutes. Like, this was totally fine. Look, for all the shit we give him, we've never said that Horner can't bump and sell.
Yes. And Boyd calls Horner a rising star. The babyfaces had the advantage for most of the 3 minutes, but DiBiase knocked out the rising star with the glove-assisted punch, and Bundy pinned him with a 5 count. 2 forgot that it was a 5 count, even though he's been beaten by said 5 count, as he runs into the ring thinking he's going to get to the group late, And he did get to the pile up late for a 3 count, but he then had to stand there with a thumb up his ass while the referee counted to 5.
It's kind of awkward, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. So Ted DiBiase and King Kong Bundy pick up the win, and they didn't even have shirtless General Skandor Akbar in their corner.
Imagine what they could accomplish if they did.
Well, we're going to find out what Akbar can do, because he put a shirt on to do a pre-tape promo here to talk about the missing link.
Wrestling fans, the past few weeks, there's been a mysterious man on the scene here in the Mid-South wrestling area, known only as the Missing Link. We know very little about this very impressive specimen. He's a tremendous wrestling machine, and we will learn more about him. He has a name. General Skandor Akbar taped an interview earlier. Let's hear his comments regarding the Missing Link now.
I want to make one point crystal clear. This man is not insane. He has never been in any institution whatsoever. He's as sane as all of you people watching television right at this moment. And he does have a name. His name is Max. Max who, you ask? That's all you need to know at present. You know, this man is not crazy, because there's a fine line between insanity and being a genius. This man is a genius. He's just different than anything that you've ever seen in Mid-South and all the opposition. I want you to know one thing. He could cause all of you to have split personalities, because this man is tenacious. As I've said before, he is not crazy, and he does have a name. It's Max, and that's all you need to know right now.
All right, so all we need to know right now is that his name is Max. And I'm interested in knowing your thoughts, because I think Max is a dumber name than Dewey.
So his name, what's his last name? Max Link?
Yeah, there you go. Max Link, and his nickname is Missing.
Yeah, it was just a big misunderstanding. He went to fill out his W-2.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't have a middle name, so he just wrote Missing for middle name, and they misunderstood, so he became the Missing Link.
That is
independent contractors. I guess it'd be a 1099.
That is the absolute best explanation I've ever heard. Wow, that's even better than when Warrior was listed as Warrior, because they had to put 2 names, and they just put his name twice.
Yeah, I don't know if this was part of it or not, but I remember that people would call him Warrior Warrior, which is funny on its own.
Yes, it is. So it's Max versus John E. Rich. As a transgender person, I'm offended that they won't call the Missing Link by his chosen name of Max. As a wrestling fan, I am perpetually offended by having to watch Max wrestle. I was so into this match that I decided to look up more Dr. Death Steve Williams. He is not going to be here for 3 months next year, but from what I could tell, he was not playing football. I don't know what the hell he was doing. Maybe he was injured, but, we're going to be without Dr. Death for the first 3 months of 1984.
Unfortunate.
Now, Max won with a headbutt to the kidney area. However, because he's so not crazy, and he's as sane as anybody watching the show, which really is not, the best defense for someone not being crazy. But because he's as sane as the rest of us, he continued to attack John E. Rich after the bell with more headbutts to the kidney area, and that led to a reverse decision disqualification. So John E. Rich, in addition to having his 2 wins over the tag team champions, now has a win over Max.
Why is Johnny Rich not getting a North American title match? He is on a hell of a hot streak.
Why is he not wrestling? Well, I guess Harley Race is the world champion. Why isn't he wrestling Harley Race for the world title? Other than the fact that Mid-South isn't in the NWA, I don't think.
It is not, but they still use the NWA world champion on occasion, which is like, I think I've read somewhere that that was a technicality that sort of helped the NWA with the monopoly thing. It was like, no, look, we send our world champion to someone who's not even a member.
Yep.
This was a shit match with a shit finish that was reversed into an even shittier finish.
No one cared for this match. It wasn't even just me. Junkyard Dog versus Mike McGee. Reeser introduced the match as one fall with remaining television time before introducing Mike McGee from Arab, Alabama. Is Arab, Alabama a real place?
It is, and I knew that, and I wanted to talk about that because I have actually heard of Arab, Alabama, because there is a very funny Asian American comedian named Henry Cho who had a bit about his wife is from Arab, Alabama, and it was originally called Arad, Arad. And then when they painted it on the water tower, they accidentally made a B instead of a D. And instead of repainting it, they just decided to rename the town. Go to YouTube and search for Henry Cho, Arab, Alabama. It's a very funny bit.
That is a very Alabama thing to do.
Yeah.
By the way, Arab, Alabama, population of 8,623 as of 2022.
That's a little bit bigger than the town I grew up in.
Yes. And it's actually 8 times as big as Ronceverte, West Virginia, which was the name of a town that Mid-Atlantic did a house show in 1981 that we talked about on AngryMarks.com last week. If you've never heard Lord Alfred Hayes saying Ronceverte, you don't know what you're missing.
What did they draw in Ronceverte? Do you know?
Unfortunately, Cage Match did not have records of this show in Ronceverte.
I wonder. I have a book that's got Mid-Atlantic results from that period. I wonder. I don't know. I'll look later. Ronceverte. You'll have to tell me how to spell that later.
Ronceverte. Ronceverte. And
I bet Lord Alfred did have a field day with that one.
And he was a heel at the time, so it's like, good old Lord Alfred Hayes. And believe it or not,
yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say I understand as as someone who I grew up in Arkansas. I spent some time in Mississippi before I moved to Texas. One of the most important things that you have to learn in the South is how to mispronounce things correctly.
How to mispronounce things correctly?
Yeah.
You have to explain that,
Because, okay, the place that I'm from in Arkansas, 45 minutes, which way? West. It's not El Dorado, it's El Dorado. And then 45 minutes to the north, the town where I went to college, it's not Monticello like Thomas Jefferson's estate. It's Monticello. And then over in western Arkansas, it's not Nevada County, it's Nevada County. You have to know how to mispronounce things correctly.
If I wasn't murdered to death for being transgender down there, I would also be a snob because I'm from the north and pronouncing things correctly. By the way, speaking of pronouncing things correctly, let's go to Lord Alfred Hayes talking about Ronceverte, West Virginia.
All right.
Weaver and Jones square off with the Russians Markov and Volkov, and Johnny Weaver wants you, Lord Alfred Hayes.
Not so much as I want him. I've been chasing this coward everywhere, all over the world. And where do I find him? In Ronceverte? I mean, I could have been in Paris, London, Rome, even on the French Riviera, but I have to be in Ronceverte, where they quaff beer. Well, you're going to pay dearly, Weaver. These two barbarians here have been programmed to take you apart, and don't think that your choice of Jones as a tag team partner will save you. We'll destroy him first, and then you.
Why can't we have more Lord Alfred Hayes talking about Ronceverte?
That's fantastic. I don't think I've ever heard I was gonna say I don't think I've ever heard Lord Alfred as a heel. I don't think I've ever heard him as a wrestler before.
To be fair, he was a manager. Nikolai
Oh,
Volkov,
okay.
the other guy.
Well, I've only heard him as an announcer.
Yes. Honestly, if you've never heard Lord Alfred Hayes heel promos, you need to go to YouTube and do some digging because it's just fucking amazing.
You know what was the date of the show in Ronceverte, West Virginia?
I think it was October 20th, 1981. I X'd out of it.
Well, give me just a second.
Okay, but only 1 second because we're a very serious podcast.
Yeah, we're about as serious as a silly, unserious bunch of nonsense. What October? What do you remember?
I think it was October 20th, 1981.
Okay.
In the Ronceverte.
Oh, as doesn't appear to be listed here in the wrestling record book, Jim Crockett Promotions, 1980 to 1988 by Mark James.
God damn it, Mark James. We don't ask you for much.
You had one job.
One job, Mark James, to tell us about Ronceverte. And gotta love rolling your R's. Ronceverte.
Never could.
By the way, back to Junkyard Dog versus Mike McGee. And at least this time I can tell you how we ended up getting sidetracked. We have officially reached the last year of Junkyard Dog because he leaves after the August 11th, 1984 Mid-South show. So we have less than 1 year left of the Junkyard Dog.
The final year of the dog.
The funny thing is, I heard all these stories about how Bill Watts buried him, and maybe he buries him, further down onto the show, because I just watched the intro of the show. But Watts is, very apologetic and very abashed about it. I don't know what happened to Junkyard Dog. He went to what he thinks is greener pastures. We love the dog and yada, yada, yada. It's it was not the burial that I was expecting from having heard years of Watts burying dog. But again, maybe he just does it later on in the show or in future shows.
He probably harps on it forever.
Probably. Junkyard Dog pinned Max McGee, or not Max McGee. Max McGee played for the Green Bay Packers. Mike McGee, after a thump before I could research more USFL stuff. Mike McGee does not have a cage match.
Really?
No, yeah.
That's what the disrespect to the pride of Arab, Alabama.
So I wrote about 20 words about Junkyard Dog versus Mike McGee. I wrote about 5 times as much about a match about half as long. Crusher Darsow versus Art Cruz. This is the debut of Crusher Darsow. Yes, this is Barry Darsow, who would become Crusher Khrushchev in Mid-Atlantic. He was Repo Man. He was Demolition Smash. He was Hole-in-One Darsow. Now, I'm going to tell you what the part that I was finding disconcerting, and I'm assuming, again, it's the same you did. But during the introductions, they just show the upper half of Darsow's body. You can see he's wearing a flannel shirt that's tucked into what appears to be jeans. It's okay, they tell us he's from the Northwest. He's an outdoorsman. So flannel shirt and jeans seems like a perfectly reasonable outfit. He takes off his flannel shirt to wrestle. Okay, he's going to wrestle in jeans, right? No, he's not. He's not going to wrestle in jeans. In fact, I think it would have been better if he took what he was wearing off and wrestled in his underwear, because he was wrestling in baggy Daisy Dukes.
That just rolled off my back. That wasn't even what bothered me.
The baggy Daisy Dukes with a rope belt And they were like baggy in the wrong way. So it's like if he would have made a cover, Mr. Happy probably would have been poking out at us. But thankfully, Crusher Darso did not bend over at any point during this match, and instead he won with an over-the-shoulder backbreaker. So I'm kind of surprised that you were not thrown off by his baggy Daisy Dukes. I'm interested in knowing what you had an issue with in this match.
What if George Weingroff wore the baggy Daisy Dukes?
They would have had to put the black bar on the bottom of the screen, like when the Beatles used to, or not the Beatles, but when Elvis used to be on TV. They have to have the bar to cover his lower half.
So I didn't even notice what Darso was wearing because I could not get over the fact that I have never seen Barry Darso without face paint but with hair before, and it was very disconcerting.
That is true. He did have hair and did not have face paint on. And now that you mention it, I don't think there's ever a time that both. Well, I guess he kind of had hair when he was Repo Man, but he was quote unquote wearing a mask.
Didn't he kind of, by the time he was Repo Man, have like a skullet going on?
Probably.
Like he actually still had it was starting to thin a little, but he still had a full head of hair.
Yeah. It was Crusher Darso beating Art Cruz. And then
Canadian backbreaker.
Yes. He thinks he's Bruno, apparently.
We don't talk about Bruno.
Hey man, let's talk about Bruno. What about JYD? Oh, we are talking about JYD here. So then I guess I should ask you what your thoughts on this were, because this was up next. They showed an angle that happened back in February on this show that we talked about, we dissected, and we laughed at a little bit. It was when Matt Bourne was still here, teaming with Ted DiBiase against Tony Atlas and Andre the fucking Giant. And this was the match where Kamala ran in and bloodied Andre with a 2x4. Kamala slams Andre. This was when Duggan was still with the Rat Pack, but it was also when the dissension began, because Duggan wanted nothing to do with Akbar, even though, they're thick as thieves and they're all heels sticking together. Yeah, he didn't trust Akbar because of his oil money and his association with the Iron Sheik. And DiBiase lied to him and said that, oh, no, we have nothing to do with Akbar. Akbar did that on his own, sending out Kamala. And it also featured Andre gripping up Bill Watts and screaming at him. And the whole point of this was done to plug Kamala versus Jim Duggan.
Yeah. Sure. I was kind of surprised that Watts was cool with that.
With being gripped up by Andre?
Yeah, didn't seem like Watts' ego wouldn't permit that.
Well, Andre's never wrestles on Mid-South TV ever again. So maybe he didn't actually approve of it.
Yeah, well, to be fair, this would be about the time that the WWF was starting to go national, and Vince was no longer booking Andre out to the territories.
Yeah, Vince has officially bought the WWF. Like, he bought it, I think, at the end of '82, but nobody knew it until like the end of '83 when Vince started his national expansion plans. So we go to commercial, we come back, and JR is still talking about Andre the Giant. And it's like, Jesus Christ, dude. So then we get our final standby match, our expiration of time match. It's Doug Vines and Randy Barber versus Joshua Stroud and the perpetual Alabama junior heavyweight champion, Mike Jackson, who I think is still wrestling today in 2024, at 76 or so years old.
I believe so.
Yeah. Joshua Stroud does not have a cage match. And I did discover that Barber is either 23 or 24 here. And Jesus fucking Christ, he should have been an Anderson because he's got the Anderson hairstyle despite being such a young man.
Joshua Stroud looks like Eddie Murphy if he was really jacked.
I wrote that Joshua Stroud is African American, and shockingly, Watts hasn't put the North American title on him in 1986 after every other black guy doesn't work out.
Wonder what happened to him.
Barber took a back bump off a kick to the back of the head, which it's always amazing figuring out the physics of some of these bumps. And Stroud not only won with a power slam, but they made sure to say shades of the Junkyard Dog.
A great young black athlete, Joshua Stroud.
Yes. The match order of this show is the worst thing Grizzly Smith ever did.
This was a very fun 3.5 minute match. Like Mike Jackson was fucking working here. He's doing crossbodies and monkey flips and bumping like crazy. Fucking Josh Stroud. He press slams Doug Vines and he struggled to get him up, but damned if he didn't get him. And then, I don't know. For a 3.5 minute expiration of time match at the end of the show, this was pretty fun.
At this point, I was screaming at my TV, so it's like I was not paying attention to this shit at all. I'm like, this was one of those shows like, Jesus Christ, this is really the best he could do. Like, Grizzly Smith should lose his job. You know, for more than one reason.
A lot of reasons.
Yeah.
I'm so disappointed. I cannot find any record of Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling in Ronceverte, West Virginia.
Ronceverte. And we're not just talking about the October 1981 show. We're just talking about in general. We can't find anything in Ronceverte.
Absolutely nothing. The only thing is that references it is a review of the show that you were talking about.
Yes. Oh, lordy. So let's tiptoe across the Louisiana-Texas border, go 190 miles west to the Sportatorium in Dallas, Texas for World Class Championship Wrestling. And let's go to the intro with Bill Mercer.
This is World Class Championship Wrestling from the Sportatorium in Dallas, Texas. And we have a tremendous main event for you. It is the 6-man World Class Tag Team Championship and features the champions, David, Kevin, and Kerry Von Erich, and the challengers and former champions, the Freebirds, Michael Hayes, Terry Gordy, and Buddy Roberts. This is a match we've been waiting for a long time. Coming up first on World Class Championship Wrestling, a match we recorded at the State Fair Coliseum and a classic. It's Iceman King Parsons and Michael Hayes next on World Class Championship Wrestling.
I want you to remember, he's called that a classic. The match at the State Fair Coliseum. So I noted that when we, the last few weeks, Michael Hayes was saying that the rematch between the Von Erichs and the Freebirds for the 6-man tag team titles, that all these major cities were bidding on that match. I want to know what Dallas paid to get that match. I think we should do a what are those fucking things called? The information requests.
Freedom of Information Act.
Yeah, I think we should look into that here.
I bet if it had been 2024, Arlington would have outbid Dallas.
Well, I mean, forgive me if I'm wrong, but isn't Dallas and Arlington like right there on top of each other?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Arlington is between Dallas and Fort Worth.
Okay, so I just say it's the Dallas metropolitan area, unless Mayor Jim Ross insists that we say it's Arlington.
That is the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex is the proper name.
I just recall that the DFW Airport Hotel and Conference Center that I stayed at for WrestleMania 32 is still to this day the shittiest hotel I've ever stayed at. That's
really?
Yes, that is the DFW Airport Hotel and Conference Center, a hotel so shitty I still remember the full name of it 8 years later. I remember
I'm sorry, go ahead, finish.
He said, I will be on my deathbed, unable to remember my own name, and I will fucking remember the DFW Airport Hotel and Conference Center.
I remember the worst hotel I ever stayed at was an Econo Lodge somewhere in Georgia or Tennessee, but I can't remember where exactly.
You know what was the worst part about the DFW Airport Hotel and Conference Center? The fact that I could look out the window and see much better hotels right next door.
Could you see the airport?
No, not quite. But it was close.
So, for New Year, we took a trip to Santa Fe, New Mexico, and we had a really cool Airbnb in the mountains. And I realized the first morning there, I was sitting at the kitchen table and just looking out straight ahead, and I see an airplane go down the runway and just go off the end of the cliff and take off. And I just happened to be looking right at the Santa Fe airport, and it was very entertaining to just watch planes take off into nothing.
I'm kind of like, and I mean, I've never been to New Mexico, but I kind of just figured it was all kind of flat. I'm not expecting mountains in Mexico.
No, that part of like the Santa Fe area. Santa Fe is kind of like Chattanooga. If you've ever been to Chattanooga, it's a city that they just fucking built into the goddamn mountains for some reason.
Well, you know, at least you get a nice view.
It's very nice.
So we go to a match that was taped April 1st, 1983 at the State Fair Coliseum. Iceman Parsons versus Michael Hayes. To be perfectly honest, I'm not sure if we've seen this match before or not. You know, of course, I do remember the State Fair Coliseum tapings. That's where they did the Ric Flair Kevin Von Erich match that set up the Harley Race Kevin Von Erich match at Star Wars, where Harley had to follow Ric Flair's stipulations because, you know, that was complete horse shit.
I watched this match and I'm not sure I've seen it.
I mean, that's the problem when you only have like 10 people in the company and they wrestle each other a lot. It's like, you forget if you've seen this version of Iceman Parsons versus Michael Hayes. The match goes about 2 minutes. Parsons does a running crossbody. Hayes rolls through and pins him with his feet on the ropes.
This was quite pointless.
So, you told us what you wrote earlier during one of the matches with the Butch Reed Jim Duggan match. I'm going to read my notes verbatim. At the end of the Iceman Parsons Michael Hayes match, I wrote, the point of airing this match was because Kamala is wrestling Jim Duggan. Seconds after I wrote that joke, Mercer pitched it to the fucking video of Kamala body slamming Andre, who we just saw on Mid-South.
Same clip on both shows.
Yes. And they did this to plug the Kamala Brody feud. I wrote,
Kamala's getting around, man. Busy man.
Whose Cheerios did Andre piss in this week? Was this the week Vince told him he wasn't allowed to tour anywhere?
It might have been.
God damn, if we watch Mid-Atlantic, are they going to be showing Kamala slamming Andre there too?
Fucking UWA TV is showing Andre submitting to Connect. New Japan TV showing him losing to Inoki.
Not even that. They're just showing the same clip of Kamala body slamming Andre.
To promote different matches.
Yes. Leah Maivia is airing it in Hawaii. Carlos Colon's airing it in Puerto Rico.
It's on World of Sport for some reason.
Yes. They're in between rounds in the match. They're just airing Kamala body slamming Andre repeatedly. The Northern Tour of Canada. Those aren't even televised shows, but they have like a Titantron on there.
No, they brought a projector.
There you go.
They brought a projector to show Kamala slamming Andre the Giant, and then they watched fucking Bad News Allen wrestle Lenny St. Clair. I don't know who was in 1983. I don't even know if they were doing those tours in 83.
He's wrestling the Natural. Oh, God. By the way, this is more fun than a lot of the show we've talked about on today's show.
Yeah, you're better off listening to us than watching these shows.
We suffer, so you don't have to. And then because Iceman Parsons hasn't wrestled enough on this show yet, Iceman Parsons took on Bill Rathke. I wrote before the match began that Iceman won with she calls that the rear view in around 5 minutes. Trey, what happened in this match?
First off, I will note that Mark Lawrence appeared to be on the wagon this week. Good for him. So this match was a little bit of a big meaty men slapping meat. This was kind of fun. And then in 4 minutes and 12 seconds, Parsons came off the middle rope and hit Bill Rathke with the butt for the win.
So what the fuck is a troika? Mercer said that Iceman has completed 1/3 of his troika when he took Buddy's hair. And then never told us what the other 2/3 of his troika were. And I Googled troika, and I imagine I may have misspelled it because this doesn't really make sense. A troika is a Russian vehicle pulled by a team of 3 horses or a group of 3 people working together, especially in an administrative or managerial capacity. Those 2 things are not what Iceman did to Buddy Roberts.
That is the only spelling of troika I am familiar with. By the way, just a second, I have to do a quick mea culpa. When they were after they showed the clip of Kamala slamming Andre, they showed some more Brody and Kamala clips, and I have to acknowledge that you were right. When Kamala wrestled Rock Riddle, that was not a pin. The referee stopped the count and then waved the match off when Brody ran in.
Because Rock Riddle is secretly the brother of John Mantell, and so he can't do jobs either.
No, can't have that.
So let's go to somebody else who may or may not be able to do jobs. Kevin Von Erich, who's standing by with the 6-man tag team trophy.
You know, this 6-man tag team title means more to me than the world championship belt itself. My
Bullshit.
brothers and me have fought long and hard for this thing. It means to us a sense of achievement that you don't get anywhere else. No other belt, no other trophy. This is the 3 of us. It belongs to us. Now, if the Freebirds think they can beat us fair and square, so be it. Go ahead and come on with it all you got. But let me tell you something. We've trained all our lives for this thing right here, and no one's going to beat us.
You know, a lot of people are talking about the Freebirds are in a slump, and a lot of people are talking about what this title means to them. I heard Kevin Von Erich say that it's more important than any world title he could hold by himself for the mere fact he gets to share it with all his family. Well, we had a little bit of pride in that title, too. Because, see, we were the only world champions that ever came from Atlanta, and we took a lot of pride with that, and so did the people from Atlanta. And I'm sure by October the Braves might have one. But that ain't got nothing to do with nothing, baby, because after tonight, there's one tag team in every tag team in the country. There's a lot of them that are listed as contenders. And if we don't win this one, they say we're going down to the bottom of the pile. Well, you mark my words, Von Erichs. Tonight you go down, baby, and the championship goes back to Atlanta and back to Freebird Fantasia.
Should note the Atlanta Braves finished 88-74 and did not make the playoffs that year. Anyway, as you may have heard me claim, when Kevin said the 6-man title is more important to him than the world title, bullshit. Bullshit. I don't know what I expected him to say, but that was not it. Then he says they've trained all their lives to win the 6-man trophy. Bullshit. I thought Kerry was training to be, what was it, a discus thrower in the Olympics, but he didn't make the Olympics because of the boycott and, just the fact that he wasn't good enough to be in the Olympics. Like, he was very good, he just wasn't that good. Maybe he could have been the person they sent to the Olympics to show hey, this is a normal person doing the sport, so you can appreciate, the actual athletes.
I think they should have a completely average person perform every event first, so you can be really impressed when the pros do it.
Did you ever watch American Gladiators?
Not on purpose. I saw it on a few times.
Okay, so in the first couple seasons, they would have Mike Adamle do every event as a way to show, hey, the average person doing the event. And of course, the Gladiators weren't actually kicking Mike Adamle's ass because that poor bastard didn't need more head injuries. But yeah, that was the, hey, let's have an average person do this to see what it's like.
By the way, so we have we just, I think last week, concluded the Paris Olympics, and I watched 0 minutes of the Olympics outside of a few clips, but I do have 3 new Olympic heroes.
Kurt Angle, Snoop Dogg.
I said new Olympic heroes.
Okay, who was it?
The Turkish pistol shooter who won silver with no special equipment and one hand in his pocket. The Algerian boxer who punched a cop so hard she cried and quit. And the French pole vaulter who did not medal because his gigantic dong got caught in the bar.
I did not hear about that last story.
Oh my God, you didn't? Oh no. Yeah. Apparently this happened, this has happened to him previously. But yeah, I'll find the clip and send it to you. This fucking guy, he goes to vault over this pole, and he's got it. He would have had it. He would have cleared the pole, but I swear to God, and you can see it, poke it out. It's like fucking if George Weingroff was wearing a singlet. His massive fucking hog got caught on the bar.
I was gonna say, was it George Weingroff?
Maybe a relative.
Well, while we're looking that up, let's go to an interview with Jimmy Garvin, and I'll be honest, and we'll explain why later. Audio does not do this promo justice.
Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin and his valet Sunshine are certainly colorful, personable, and extremely controversial. And now added to those qualities is a heavyweight championship, the American Heavyweight Championship that Gorge Jimmy Garvin has won, and of course that's just compounded his ego. And now Garvin has some interesting plans. At least he said he had interesting plans and called a news conference to tell us just exactly what he had in mind for his defense of the American Heavyweight Championship and all comers. And this is that news conference. Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin, thank you for inviting me to your luxurious office here today.
My pleasure, Bill Mercer, any day.
I've got a question for you.
Okay.
I've heard a rumor that you're planning to defend your American Heavyweight Championship every week. Now, what is this?
I can't believe how things get around here. I try to keep a secret to give everybody a surprise. And
is it true?
You know about that. I've been thinking about that, Bill Mercer. I've been thinking about defending my American Heavyweight title every week on television to a worthy opponent. I think it's a fabulous idea. I think it's a fabulous idea.
Well, that's certainly quite unusual. Most people wouldn't do that sort of thing. What's that you have?
Well, I'm an unusual person, you know.
I know
you can't
that.
compare me to the rest of the world. My goodness. This is computer readouts on all my opponents and challengers.
Gorgeous can beat them all.
And I can beat them all, too. That's right. She's right about that.
What's that, an analysis of each man?
That's right. It's a complete rundown. I know everything about everything. Just ask me anything you want to know, I can tell you. I called this press conference for a reason. I guess that was to familiarize the people of Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin and Sunshine that maybe are just tuning in or just finding out that world-class wrestling is the program to watch, man.
Sure.
I mean, world-class wrestling has the athletes of the world, the finest. Of course, look at me. That's why it's world-class. I'm here, okay? But I wanted to give people a little refresher of what I've been going through. Sometimes you see me and I'm not really in a good mood. Hey, when I came here, I beat David Von Erich the first time out for the Texas heavyweight title,
right? Well, I took about 5 times, and then he won it back.
Well, that was with the conspiracy that started growing.
Conspiracy.
See, I beat him, remember, now think back, Bill Mercer.
I know.
I beat him the first time I tried for the Texas heavyweight title, I won it.
Well,
then the
she held his foot,
started,
you know, and that...
that was...
I didn't hold anybody's foot.
Don't even let him upset you. Okay. I'll take care of him. Hey. She was blocking her face. Man.
Oh, I see.
David tried to kick her in the face, and she kind of... But let's not waste time on that, because I'm a very busy person. Okay, so I beat him for the Texas title, and what happens? The referees say I didn't do it or something, some conspiracy, and they reversed the decision. They held the belt up 4 or 5 times. Never been done in history. Okay, now, they calling me a substitute champion concerning the American heavyweight title, right? I'm no substitute.
It's Los Angeles again. They've been calling all
Don't call me back. I'm busy. I'm not a substitute champion. I just happened to be at the right place at the right time, right? So I beat Kevin Von Erich for the American heavyweight champion. Well, wait a minute. Let me finish.
What about the aerosol spray that she put in his face, huh?
That was again a vicious rumor.
You sprayed it in his face.
You're talking to me.
Yes, okay.
Okay, not her. She's busy.
Okay.
Talk to me. Okay. She did not spray nothing in his face, man. I am the champion. Give me my belt, baby. Let me show it to him. All right. Now, it's just like the game between the Dallas Cowboys and Miami, right? Dallas kicks an onside kick, you know what I mean? And then he didn't go 10 yards, but he touched it before.
Well, you're a Florida supporter.
Now, wait a minute. Now, the referee, right at that time, the referee got dirt in his eyes, right? Okay, hey, listen. It's a conspiracy. The fact is, gorgeous Jimmy Garvin is the greatest athlete in the world. Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin. I've been humiliated and everything. I had to wash dogs. I had to, remember that? Post holes and all that stuff. Hey, those days are over.
When are you giving David and Kevin a rematch, a challenge on this American Championship?
We'll discuss that at a later moment. Right now.
Can you tell me others?
Nothing. Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin is the American heavyweight champion. No, it's not so good.
All right, so I've now been distracted by this interview by things that have nothing to do with Jimmy Garvin twice. The second time, we'll get to the first time in a minute. The second time I was distracted by this man's penis, who hit the pole vault, and like you were not kidding. Like that's not even like, well, you could it's not really his penis. He hit it like with his thigh or something. Like, no. He hit it with his penis.
Whole ass. That was all dong.
All dong and a yard wide. Anthony Ammirati, I think, is how you pronounce that name.
I hope he started an OnlyFans the second he got home.
I can't imagine a world where he wouldn't do it. And by the way, on my Twitter feed, right below you sending that, was WWE's Kathy Kelly saying, "Shout out to the kind people on the internet." Is she still?
There's no fine people on the internet.
Kind, not fine.
Oh, there's no. Well, there's like 3 kind people on the internet, I guess.
There's 1 or 2 of us. Is she even still with WWE? I don't even know.
Last I knew, yes, but I haven't watched anything but pay-per-views in like 4 months.
So this may be one of those cases where I just haven't been paying attention. Has the bobble on Mercer's microphone always been so fucking big? It looked like we were censoring his chin.
A lot of talk about big bobbles on this show, huh?
Yes. So we pitch it to a news conference Garvin held, and this news conference was so important that only one reporter showed up, and that was Bill Mercer. And I have no idea what Jimmy Garvin said, because Sunshine, I gotta tell you, I'm usually a Precious supporter. Precious usually my preferred Jimmy Garvin valet, but I could definitely get behind Sunshine this week.
I'd absolutely get behind Sunshine.
She was wearing a sweater, and I was very distracted by this sweater. It was a very well-fitting sweater.
I gotta stop saying problematic shit on the podcast. One of these days, somebody is gonna dig these up just to cancel me.
Well, if it helps, no one listens. So, I mean, what are they going to cancel you from?
That's fair. So, whose office do you think this was? Was this Fritz's office at the Sportatorium?
Obviously, it was Jimmy Garvin's office. Didn't you hear them?
Sure.
Maybe it was Ken Mantell's office.
Not enough pictures of Johnny on the walls.
They zoomed in on Jimmy Garvin, but all that did was give us a closer view of Sunshine's sweater. I think Garvin was talking about the Texas title when Los Angeles called, but Garvin wanted them to call back some other time. I think Garvin at one point was talking about football, and at some point they talk about that he's going to defend the America title every week on TV.
I don't think that's true.
I think he might be lying. And I'm sad because I hold professional wrestlers to the highest of moral standards. So Jimmy Garvin lying about this, just I don't know what to believe in anymore.
You know what? You gotta be careful who you put your trust in.
Well, maybe it's time for me to put my trust in Boris Zuchov. So
it's not on cage matches. Got to like once he got to world class, they changed his name to the more recognizable Zukov. But yeah, that was not the case here quite yet.
No, and I wish I would have written down everything that Bill Mercer tried to call him, but Zuchov seemed to be what he decided on. And yes, this was Boris fucking Zurkov with General Skandor Akbar. It's another one of those situations where Akbar manages somebody in world class that he doesn't manage in Mid-South, like with Bundy. I guess Bundy's not in the territory anymore, but Bundy was here for a while.
He was managing Zurkov when he first got to Mid-South, because when he was when Zurkov was like the substitute teaming with DiBiase. But then at some point, as we discussed, Akbar apparently has more important things to do than manage the wrestlers who pay him to manage them. But only on Mid-South TV days.
Yeah. Well, that was when he had a power of attorney over Ted DiBiase's tag team title. But I think, I could be wrong, but I don't think he was necessarily managing Zurkov. I think because he was managing Olympia. So he, since Olympia was already out there, it was like it would behoove him to offer immoral support to Boris Zurkov as well.
I suppose that's possible.
But apparently Zuchov will be wrestling Bruiser Brody next week, and he somehow won. Not only was I not paying attention, I didn't even bother to go back to see how he won. But the big news here was that Mercer finally figured out how to pronounce Zurkov by the end of the match.
For those of you keeping score, it was a diving knee drop in 4 minutes and 11 seconds.
Thankfully, we have Trae here to keep track of these things.
I wrote, this was a match.
So because we haven't listened to enough General Skandor Akbar promos this week, let's go to another General Skandor Akbar promo. Good God, we've mentioned this before, but he is all over these fucking shows.
The man here, Mr. Akbar. So this is the man who you think next week can handle Bruiser Brody?
Boris Zurkov, one of the Soviet Union's finest and greatest athletes. Devastation Incorporated goes faster, stronger by the days, by the weeks, and by the month. It's common knowledge. Nobody wants to face Kamala. I've got Mr. Ebony, I've got the Mongol, and I'm scouting this man. And as you know, that my scouting goes beyond the limits of the United States. As you can say, this man is from the Soviet Union, the USSR. Now, right here, next week on World Class Wrestling, this man is going to wrestle Bruiser Brody. And need I say more? If this man can beat Bruiser Brody, I sign him to Devastation Incorporated next week.
Mr. Akbar and Boris Zurkov. And we'll have the six-man World Tag Team Championship next.
Mercer really had to stretch that one out there. So Akbar cuts a promo about Jim Duggan being a hippie. Wait, wrong show. He said Boris will wrestle Brody, and if Boris wins, he will sign him to Devastation Incorporated next week. So now I got to ask, so are the negotiations completed? Is Boris happy with the money split that if he agrees to, be part of Devastation Incorporated, or if he wins, does that mean that, well, now we go into negotiations with each other to see if it's a good fit, see if we can come to a money agreement, etc.
Does Zerkov get to keep the money that he makes when he's wrestling in America, or does he have to pay like a percentage back to the Kremlin?
I think that has to be taken into account as well, because they expect their cut. Akbar expects his cut. Maybe like at this point he's wrestling for free.
They might be starving, this poor guy.
That's why he's so thin, and why he bulks up in WWF, because that's the reason he bulks up. No other reason. But he doesn't have to share his money with Akbar in the WWF.
Only way he could be hungrier here is if he was in the Tennessee territory.
I always loved the story Cornette told that when the Jerry Jarrett was working with Vince, he tells the guys to get off whatever they're on because they may have a chance to go up there, and Dutch Mantel's like, with how much you're paying us, we're not even on food.
Yeah, this is not an isolated. You listen to Steve Austin, the biggest star in the history of the business. He'd tell you he was literally starving when he was working the Memphis territory.
Oh Lord. So we have a 6-man tag team trophy holders, the Von Erichs, David, Kevin, and Kerry, versus the Freebirds. Kevin cut his famous promo, but I'm pretty sure he's done this more than once because this isn't the way I remember it. But Kevin cuts his promo talking about how this war isn't between Texas and Georgia. It's between decency and filth. Which,
yeah, I feel like I've heard that before.
I guess especially if, they're going to, I don't know if there are any plans to go to Georgia, but if they're syndicating their show around and possibly taking the show on the road, it makes sense to not turn Georgia into the heels, because if they do that, you do a show in Georgia, then it's, well, fuck these guys. They hate Georgia. It's like, no, we don't hate Georgia. We just hate these assholes who happen to be from Georgia.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to run Georgia anytime soon. I think that would make some people unhappy.
Maybe not the full Von Erich clan, but maybe I'm literally easy for me to say. Maybe not the full world class group, but maybe the Von Erichs are going to do shots in Atlanta or whatever.
At the Omni?
At the La Omni. Maybe they'll be wrestling Larry Labisco.
Oh my God! So yesterday we were driving. It was my wife and I and a friend of hers, and she was just talking, and she mentioned there's a chain of hotels called the Omni Hotels, and she just said Omni, and I, without even thinking, laughed, and then I had to explain to my wife and her coworker about Larry Zbyszko and the Larry Labisco at the Omni in Atlanta.
And your wife probably rolled her eyes.
Sure she did.
10 seconds in, this was shockingly the best match we've seen all week. Mercer said that Kevin sent the Freebirds out of the territory with a series of drop kicks. Wow, this feud did not go as long as they thought it did. Wait, he probably didn't mean they sent him out of the territory. He sent him out of the ring with a series of drop kicks.
Honest mistake.
Yes. Everyone got the chance to shine, and I made a comment that came back to bite me because I was convinced the Von Erichs were going to win, because you notice in a lot of these world-class matches, the person that loses the match tends to get most of the offense in. And so since the Freebirds were getting in quite a bit of offense, I'm like, well, this is obvious the Von Erichs are going to win because this is how world class books their matches. You keep the guys who are losing strong by having them be in control for most of the match. Well, I was wrong. The match breaks down into a 6-way. Bronco Lubick is so incompetent, so this could have just been happening the entire match. The finish sees Kerry pick Hayes up in a bear hug, but Buddy does a diving headbutt to Kerry, and Hayes gets the pin to win the championship trophy. And Mercer did a horrible job of explaining this, but we're supposed to believe that Buddy put a foreign object into his headgear when he did the diving headbutt to Kerry. And so the Kings are dead. Long live the new Kings. The Von Erichs are the Freebirds are your 6-man tag team champions.
Yeah, so I don't want to shock anyone, but this hot match with great over wrestlers in front of a hot crowd was fucking great.
Say what?
Really drives home the point that I keep making. All you need is one hot feud, and a territory can coast on that for a pretty long time.
And man, oh man, they are coasting on this one.
And then fucking Kerry, the ending of the show, or the ending of this segment, there was a little bumper at the end. Kerry is knocked out. He's been headbutted in the back of the head by Buddy Roberts. And David standing over Kerry, screaming, "No!" over his unconscious form. This has got to be the worst thing to ever happen to the Von Erich family.
Obviously,
losing the World 6-Man Tag Team Championship trophy.
I mean, you heard Kevin. This is more important than than the World Heavyweight Championship.
Please name the show "The Worst Thing to Ever Happen to the Von Erichs."
I see. I was going to let me find it here 1 second. What was I going to name it? I was going to name this show Outstanding Television Personality Jim Ross. But The Worst Thing That Happened to the Von Erichs is a better name.
I think so.
Yeah.
Hell of a main event.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And I mean, we've been talking about for a few weeks, or at least I've been talking about how I'm starting to get sick of this fucking feud already. And it's only been 8 months. But hey, the crowd wasn't sick of it. We got a great match here. And, the Von Erichs now are going to try to get their revenge. And I mean, they just won the trophy too. Like, it wasn't at Star Wars, but it was sometime around Star Wars that they won it in the first place.
Yeah, I was looking at that earlier, and then I navigated too far away on Cage Match trying to find Ronceverte, West Virginia. Yeah, so they just won them. They won them on July 4th at the Tarrant County Convention Center in Fort Worth, and then lost them here on this show, which was taped on August 12th.
God damn. Now those fucking Freebirds, just when you think you have them down, they come back.
I'm trying to think of a Skinner pun, and I got nothing.
Sounds good. All right. So 2 shows this week that were definitely shows.
These were shows with wrestling matches on them.
Yes. Some of them even happened in the general vicinity of the day that they aired.
Some of them.
Yes.
Not all. Some.
Yeah.
There was stuff to like. It wasn't. I've seen worse shows.
Oh, definitely. Like, don't get me wrong. This was not necessarily a bad show. Just, it's like it was there.
Yeah, these world-class main events very often make the whole shit worth it, huh?
Oh yeah, and see, it's why we end the show with world class, because why the hell not? Because you end with the good shit. Mid South, and I mean, I get why they do it, because if wrestling is real, you want your main event match to be in the middle of the show, so this way they have all the time they can to have the match, and thus you end with your fill-in matches, your standby matches. But at the end of the day, it's like everyone knows wrestling's fake. Just end the show with your fucking hot match. Plus, even if you don't know wrestling's fake, we have acknowledged on Mid-South TV that these shows are pre-taped. So you can edit them any way you like. You can say, hey, this, you can tell your audience, hey, we're recording the show early, but on the TV show, we're going to put it at the end so it ends in a more exciting way.
Yeah, so I don't really have a problem with the way the shows are laid out. To me, it's just a simple fact of nothing that I've seen on these Mid-South shows as of yet is like anywhere close to the good stuff on the world class shows.
By the way, did you know that Ring of Honor had a TV show in 2002?
Yes, and it was called Impact TV, right?
High Impact.
High Impact.
Yes. These things are almost impossible to find.
I have some of those.
Yes.
I don't know how many episodes there are. I think I have maybe like 4 of them.
Yeah. There, from what I can tell, there were 7 episodes, and somebody may or may not have uploaded the first 4 episodes on a torrent site that you may or may not be able to download.
Yeah, I may or may not be looking at that in my media library right now.
I may or may not be downloading them right now, as a matter of fact.
We should review those shows.
I mean, all they are, like, to the best of my knowledge, aren't like they're not like dedicated TV tapings. They're basically like, hey, here are matches that happen in Ring of Honor shows. Come to our next show in Philly.
Yeah, that is my understanding.
All right. So, hey, we've gone around 90 minutes, and that tends to be the sweet spot for this show. Anything else you want to talk about, or anything else you want to say to our fine listening audience?
I just hope both of them are doing well. Hope they're having a good week here on Tuesday as they're listening to this.
Our listenership has doubled. We're now at 2.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, tremendous!
If
we double
popular.
Again, all we got to do is double it a few more times.
Yeah, we could get to 8 soon.
Wouldn't that be something?
I know that would be living the dream right there.
Oh my God! Dare we even dream double digits?
I believe
we'd be shitting. We'd be shitting in high cotton then.
We could get some sponsors if that's the case. But
Blue Chew, Manscaped. Big fan of Manscaped.
Manscaped, Blue Chew, MeUndies. But
shoot, the Lawnmower 3.0 is probably the best thing I've ever bought from a podcast. Or bought because I heard about it on a podcast.
I was like, did you really buy it because you heard about it on a podcast?
I did. No, man. It's if you I try to be gentlemanly and maintain my area just in case the missus wants to visit. And the Lawnmower 3.0 helps tremendously with that.
By the way, Manscaped is not paying us a penny for this plug.
Manscaped is not paying us. Chewy is not paying us. Whatever else the fuck I plugged last week is not paying us. I don't know. I don't make anything for these podcasts.
Because I'm making $60,000 a month.
Yeah. You're icing me out.
I'm just being very selfish. Like when certain professional wrestlers want hundreds of dollars for a 1-hour interview. I'm like, fuck you. I'm making $60,000 a month. I don't need to give you a couple $100.
I'm gonna break off and go outlaw and steal the territory.
When the hell did this start, by the way? Like, maybe it's always been and just they've never really, the people who charged never responded to me. But it's like, back in the day when I used to try to interview people, I either wouldn't get a response or they'd agree to it. It was an easy, simple transaction. Nowadays, like every person I ask, unless, you're a no-name independent, and hey, I love me some no-name independents. Nowadays, they're all like, yeah, we need to get paid to do that. I'm like, okay then. And
yeah, that's a more recent thing.
I don't know. I mean, I guess it's one of those things. If you can get someone to actually pay you, good for fucking you, dude. Good for you. It's like, but yeah. But that's gonna do it for this week's show. I want to thank everybody for listening. Hope you all had a good week. Hope you continue to have a good week. And we will talk to you again in 7 days.
Bye.